What's going on, Combat Sports Nation? I appreciate you guys tuning in once again to another Beyond the Mat episode. This is actually the second part of our two-part series of Cage Titans for the evolution of the fighter. You already had the opportunity to listen to part one, the motivation and vision behind Michael Polvere and his brand Cage Titans teaming up, doing an association show with CES for CES 39 held at the Plymouth Memorial Hall. The following day, back-to-back, Cage Titans 31 will be also held at the Memorial Hall. This part of our two-part series is going to dive right in with the matchmaker and the promoter of Cage Titans, Mike Polvere, setting up the bouts that we're about to cover: the Cardarelli versus Ricci, the Davis versus Barrett, the main event, Chuck O'Neal versus Wilfredo Santiago, and one of the most exciting fights of the entire year to me personally, in my opinion, will be the Saul Almeida Manny Bermudez fight at featherweight. Let's not delay any longer. Let's hop right into it. CES 39 coming to Plymouth Memorial Hall. If people don't know, there are flyers out and it says in association with Cage Titans. Explain the association with for me.
Basically, CES came to us a couple times before, and we've met and thought of ways that we could work together, and we never really pulled the trigger. And, November 4th, they were looking to do a date, not at the normal Twin River Casino location, and they approached us, and we unfortunately couldn't pull the trigger on that date, so they were going to go up to Maine and do a show up in Maine. They were having some difficulties up there. They came to us, asked if there was something we could do, and things aligned. We had the date already of November 5th for Cage Titans 31, and I talked to Jimmy and Pat and said, I'd be more than happy to try to come up with an awesome card for Access TV at Memorial Hall. But I'd have to keep my show intact on Saturday, and we would just do a back-to-back night and do it Friday. And, there was some discussion back and forth about the difficulty pulling back-to-back nights off, and I feel confident in the fans. I feel confident in the fighters, and me and my staff that we can pull it off. And here we are.
Let's dive into some of the matchups that were already announced. Some of the things that you alluded to are taking fruition. You said some Cage Titan veterans, and we see that Remo's on there against Josh Ricci. That should be an explosive fight. Tell me a little bit about how that bout was made.
Pretty much, Remo was coming off a loss. He's looking to rebound. He put his name in. He contemplated taking a little bit of time off, but he put his name in with us at Cage Titans. We made the fight. We thought it was a great fight. Ricci has been having some difficult times getting guys his size at his weight class to fight. He's a smaller 125er. He's walking at about 132 pounds, 133 pounds. So when we were talking to him, we felt that it'd be a great size, similar size guys. Ricci's undefeated at 2-0, but, he has an extensive amateur career, and their overall records matched up pretty well. So we made that fight when the CES and Cage Titans combination show for Access TV came about. We thought it'd be a great fight to kick off the TV portion card. So we approached Josh, asked him if he'd be happy to go over to the Friday night card. Same venue, all the same details for him, and same opponent, and he jumped at the opportunity and did Remo, and here we go. We got a great fight. We just slid that fight right over from Saturday to Friday.
That you said you slid that fight over from Saturday to Friday. I don't think that fight was yet announced as a Cage Titans fight. I mean, I could be wrong, but one that was announced already as a Cage Titans bout was Peter Barrett versus Jeremy Davis, which I now know which is very exciting. Exposure-wise, for both of those fighters, they've been moved over to Friday. Tell me a little bit of what went into that decision.
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously, we were about 5 weeks out last week, and that's when we started really heavily marketing the fights and really started releasing to the public. And, some fights weren't released yet because we were just at the beginning stages of releasing fights. I think the first round of fights we released was last Monday. Correct. And then by Wednesday was when I got the call from CES to work on this combo show. So, some fights that weren't announced yet, like you just mentioned, the Remo Ricci fight. Moving on from that, but, Jeremy Davis is undefeated coming up from Florida. You may remember him last fight for Cage Titans, taking on Don Shanis, which he won by doctor stoppage. Undefeated kid, very athletic kid, former amateur champion down in Florida. On the flip side, Peter Barrett, again, undefeated fighter, former amateur champion for Cage Titans. That was going to be our headliner on Saturday night. Two undefeated fighters going at it. And again, when the opportunity came up to work with CES, I wanted to showcase the best that Cage Titans has to offer. And I wanted to showcase to the nationwide audience the best that we have to offer and the best that New England has to offer. So we thought this was a great fight to throw on there, give Peter Barrett and Jeremy Davis some exposure, two undefeated guys. I mean, Peter Barrett, I was just thinking of this the other day. He's 6-0 as a pro. He actually holds the record for the most knockouts in the Cage Titans cage. I think nine knockouts inside the Cage Titans cage between his amateur and pro career. So I think it's a great opportunity for both fighters. We're excited to slide it over from Saturday to Friday and show CES and Access TV the type of fights that Cage Titans can produce. We haven't had that exposure to a nationwide audience yet, but I think that we have some of the best talent in New England, and we can hang with anybody. CES, I have to give them a ton of credit, and it's been fun to work with them. And in their press release, they said, hey, though CES is on TV and they're kind of known nationwide as the East Coast MMA promotion, they gave some nice acknowledgement to us at Cage Titans because they said a lot of their CES fighters got their starts and came up through the ranks through Cage Titans. So, that's what we're here to do is show that we have some of the best fighters out here as well, and we can compete at a high level.
We have Chuck Cold Steel O'Neal and Wilfredo, the Brown Bomber Santiago. How was that setting up that fight? What was the communication between you guys setting up that fight? Because that's an exciting headliner.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is a very cool fight that maybe a lot of people, if you don't know on the surface, it's a great fight. But digging a little deeper into it, you mentioned that Chuck is a former CES champion. He's actually a former Cage Titans champion. He was the first ever man to hold the Cage Titans title. Back in 2010, he fought on Cage Titans 1, and at the time, he took on an undefeated kid in Anthony Caponis. He beat Anthony Caponis, won the Cage Titans title. Right after that, left to appear on the Ultimate Fighter TV show. He went on his Ultimate Fighter TV show success and fighting on in the UFC, before going back regionally and fighting for CES. So he actually held our 170-pound title. And then the only man to ever hold it after him is currently Santiago. Will never fought Chuck because after Chuck went on to the UFC and the Ultimate Fighter, when he came back regionally, he started competing for CES. So Will never fought him before, even though he's that same title holder. So that's kind of a cool backstory a little bit. But this fight came about pretty simply. We were looking to match Will Santiago because, again, we wanted to provide the best that Cage Titans had to offer to compete on this CES Cage Titans card on Axis. They came to us and were looking to have Chuck headline. We were looking at a couple of different opponents. Chuck went up to middleweight, so that's why originally we didn't think Will Santiago versus Chuck. we were going to find an opponent for Will at 170, and we were going to look for an opponent for Chuck at 185, because Chuck does not live far, or he's originally from, a couple minutes away from Memorial Hall, so this was kind of a homecoming fight for him, and that he was going to be a perfect headliner. So we had two names for Chuck. I had an offer out to Will for a fight at 170. The day he called me to tell me if he wanted to take it or not, me and Pat Sullivan were talking, and we kind of kicked the idea around about Chuck. And we said, I don't think Will will take it, because he mentioned not wanting to go to 185. I said, you know what? For shits and giggles, let's throw it at him. Will called me. He sent me a text message. I got great news. So I'm assuming he's going to accept the fight that I originally gave him. He calls me. I go, before you go any further, I got a unique opportunity that just popped up today. I go, how would you like to headline the card versus Chuck O'Neal at 185? Hey, oh, man, Mike, you're kidding me. Of course, I'd love to do that. He knew Chuck, so he talked to his coaches, and that's it. Boom. I mean, he said he's all in. He thought it was a great opportunity to headline a TV card, against a guy like Chuck O'Neal, who has a name for being one of the best in the region, who's been to the Ultimate Fighter, who's been in the UFC, and Will jumped at the opportunity, as did Chuck. So this is a fun fight.
For those who are familiar with Cage Titans, or at least very least familiar with the last show, Manny Bermudez had made, once again, very, very quick work of his opponent, Rodrigo Almeida, very early in the first round. Saul Almeida, his training partner, very good friend, exchanged some words after their fight, and I think even prior to that fight, about a matchup, and that match has now been made and will be live on Access TV. There's been some exciting fights that we've just discussed within the last a little bit of time. This is the most exciting one to me, because this is not to say Saul is old by any means, but the Northeast veteran Saul Almeida versus the red hot, recently turned pro. I mean, even though he's got an amazing record, he is sort of still just newly pro. He's just ultra active Manny Bermudez. This is a great fight.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you definitely touched on it. I mean, Rodrigo and Saul are really tight friends. They've been fighting professionally in New England for, years. Rodrigo came in with a 13-3 record. Manny made quick work of him in the first round. Circling the cage. Some words might have, I think it was to the effect of, how about me and you next? We reached out to Saul. We made that fight happen. Then when this Access TV deal came out with CES, you have a veteran of 8 years professionally fighting, in Saul Almeida, taking on Manny Bermudez, who's 7-0 now. 7-0 with all finishes. You hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's kind of the veteran who's been around for a long time. Has always been in the top 3 in New England at featherweight, versus this guy who's ripping through the ranks. So, we're pumped up when that opportunity came to put some TV fights together. This was a no-brainer for all of us involved. And there you have it. I mean, that's going to be a great co-main event. We're really excited for it, due to the fact that there's so many different angles, backstory for this fight. Great. Fans these days like a little bit of story. They like a little bit of intrigue. They like to hear a little bit more about just, hey, fighter A versus fighter B. I mean, whether people like it or not, all the way up from Conor McGregor, Chael Sonnen, all the way down, people like a little story. They want to be invested in, and there's a lot of reasons why to be invested in this fight. I mean, one is revenge angle, and Saul Almeida gets some revenge for his teammate and really good friend Rodrigo Almeida. Can Manny continuous climb through the ranks in New England and take out possibly one of the best featherweights of the past 5 years in Saul Almeida. So there's so many different dynamics here. The fact that Saul called him out, that adds a little bit of a ripple to the fight. So there's so many things that make you invested in this type of fight. And on top of all of that, these are two of the best guys in New England right now. I think Manny's ranked number 2 in all of New England. So this isn't just a throwaway fight that you're telling a backstory to make people interested, even though it's fighters we either don't deserve fighting each other. These guys are the best of the best.
You're going to have some Cage Titan veterans in another cage Friday night as well, in the Bellator cage, with Carlos Correa. Tyler King's fought in your cage, correct? Tyler King's fought in your cage?
Tyler King made his amateur debut and his professional debut inside our cage.
I know there's pretty sure there's a couple other guys on that card that have fought for you. Keenan Raymond has fought. He's fighting on that card. He's fought for you. How's that feel, man? How's that feel to be able to have say, and I know you're not one necessarily to toot your own horn. In most cases, it's just speaking the truth. Tell me the truth behind how does it feel knowing that you have so many veterans fighting that weekend?
I mean, until you say it like that, I really I didn't think much of it, but I'm kind of speechless for once. The story's well documented. We started Cage Titans simply as an organization to give people an honest place to live out their dream of fighting. I mean, I fought, and there was many shady promoters who took advantage of fighters, and I wanted to give everybody an opportunity to fight, have an honest place to fight for, and that was always my goal. It was never more, and now as we progress to year 6, 30 events later, and we're looking at doing back-to-back shows, one being on TV. This weekend, Rob Font in the UFC, who made his amateur debut, was an amateur title holder for us, made his pro fights with us. Tyler King, those guys you talked about. It's really cool, and it really, makes me sit back and look at a lot that we accomplished, and it makes me feel really good. I wish I could articulate more, but it's awesome. It's awesome to see these guys as bright-eyed first-time amateurs fighting for us and really cutting their teeth in the sport, and now being able to perform at the pinnacle of MMA in the UFC, in Bellator, in World Series. The excitement they're getting to fight on Access TV that Friday night show. It's something that drives us, and to continue to do this, and also remember that everybody has a different goal why they compete and why they fight. So yes, as great as it feels to see Tyler King and Carlos Correa or Rob Font in the UFC and Bellator, or the Barrett brothers fighting, or Manny fighting on Axis, just as important as those guys is that first-time amateur stepping into the cage, and may never do it again, but he had it on his bucket list. Or, John Payne, who at 50-something years old competed just because he wanted to compete. It's really about everybody who steps into the cage, and there's, as happy as I am for some of those guys who will go on to the big show, I'm equally as happy for those guys who just did it one time or maybe 2 times and never again. I'm pumped up, man. I'm sorry you caught me off guard with that question. I wish I had a better answer, but I don't know. I'm just excited and to continually do things to Cage Titans and give fighters opportunities to live out their dreams, whether it's fighting in the UFC or just fighting once and never again.
Mike, I want to say thank you. This was much appreciated. To further discuss with Combat Sports Nation the evolution of Cage Titans as as far as exposure, and not just exposure to your brand, but exposure to the fighters who love to fight under the Cage Titans banner and for Mike Polvere. I want to say thank you so much. Please let the fans know the best way or the ways to get their tickets for CES 39 in association with Cage Titans November 4th, Friday night, live on Access TV. What's the best way to get tickets? Of course, go through the fighters. If you're local, go through your local fighters. How else would they get tickets for that? Do they go to Cage Titans website or CES? Can you explain that for us?
You already said it for me. I mean, it's best to always, might not be best for the promoter, but it's always best to go to the fighter. If you know a fighter and he's fighting on this card, get your tickets from him, because the side of the business that the public doesn't see, that these fighters get a percentage of their ticket sales, and that could make the difference between making, a couple bucks or making a difference in their life by making a couple $100. So if you can always get a ticket from a fighter, it might be a little bit inconvenient to have to meet up with them, but do that, because that is a revenue stream for those fighters to keep supporting them, so that they pay for travel, pay for their fights, pay for their cornermen, and pay for all those expenses that come along with fighting that sometimes the purses may not cover. So again, if you know a fighter, hit him up and you contact that fighter to show them the support, because it's important to support those guys. If you cannot contact the fighter and get in touch with a fighter, as always, there are websites and you can contact them directly from the promotion. All tickets for Friday night, November 4th, at Plymouth Memorial Hall, will be available on CES's website. So you can go to CESMMA.com, I believe. They also have tickets on CageTix.com. Again, so you can contact either the fighter or go through CES to get the tickets for Friday night.
To stay up to date with CES 39, of course, you can visit their Facebook page, their website. Check them up on social media, at CES MMA on Twitter. If people don't already know, Mike, you want to let them know your Twitter handle and your Snapchat, which you're very active. Mike Polvere is very active and doing special things with his fighters on his social media. So if you want to just throw those handles out for Cage Titans to our fans, that'd be great.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're on Snapchat at Cage Titans, Twitter at Cage Titans FC, Instagram at Cage Titans, and Facebook page Cage Titans FC. We do a ton of social media for the fighters. We do Snapchat takeovers with our fighters so that they have exclusive content for our Snapchat and get to know the fighters a little bit behind the scenes. We did a different fight announcement on all four of those platforms, so you had to follow us on all four to get all four fights. So we're always active. We're always looking for new, innovative ideas on how to get content to the public and get them interactive. Because it's a lot more fun fighting in front of 1,500 people than it is fighting in front of two. So we want to make sure the fans feel that interaction. They want to come out and they feel invested in these fights. So we're always trying to do something special for them. So Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And for all our young fans, we stay active on Snapchat. That was one of my best stories. I said to one of the fighters, I said, "Hey, I can't find you on Facebook." He goes, "Yeah, because I'm not an old man." I go, "What?" He goes, "Only old people use Facebook." He goes, "Young kids use Snapchat." I said, "All right." So that was my reasoning behind pumping Snapchat, is because all you young guys out there, they said I'm old because only old people are on Facebook.
Oh my goodness, that is too hilarious, because I was literally going to say, Mike, you are like a little kid with your enthusiasm about Snapchat. So that is...
I had this talk with a lot of people. I've been pushing Snapchat. But listen, Instagram and Snapchat are the fastest rising social media platforms. And it's because it's poking on with the young kids and everything. it's so funny because Facebook, you wanted to tell the world everything about you, and you write 2 paragraphs, and everybody would read it. They no one wanted to read anymore, so they went to 140 characters on Twitter because people didn't want to read too much. Then they went to Instagram because you don't want to read anymore. You just want to see a picture. And now they go to Snapchat because they only want to listen to you for 3 seconds. It's hilarious. It's instant gratification in this world. It's weird how it's going, but we got to evolve with the times. And though I'm a 35-year-old man, I got to act like a kid so I can hit the new wave of fighters and make sure that if I put everything up on Facebook and I have an 18-year-old fighter and he's not able to share that with his friends, I'm not hitting that audience that he's trying to attract and getting his friends and family the content. So we need to be able to expand our social media platforms that we hit all of them and hit them all equally.
And I'll piggyback off that by saying, coming soon, Combat Sports Nation Snapchat.
I would say go get a Snapchat. I mean, it's I don't even use it anymore besides when I'm just posting something because we have hundreds of people on our Snapchat now. So it's like I don't even know who half these people are. I'd go on and I'd click on a story and it's like some 12, 13, 14-year-old kid in school. And I'm like, who the hell is this? But, I laugh, but, it gets content out there. People love it. We've done the Snapchat takeovers. People already for this fight are like, when do I get to take over the Snapchat? So it's people might laugh that are our age, but, it's definitely hit with the kids. So that's what we got to do.
Mike, once again, thank you so much. We'll be chatting from now up through fight time. We appreciate the exclusive as always. Combat Sports Nation.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you guys for having us on as always. And, we continue. We love working with you guys. We love that you keep the fighters, in touch with their fans and give them tons of content. We really appreciate what you do on the local level. So anything we can do for you guys on our end, we're always happy to do it. So thank you guys.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you so much.